This week, spotting a face, a ticket to space, and a drag race. It can only be the finest tech from Click in 2019.
Hello, welcome, and a very happy new year to you. Gosh, 2020 always sounded like the future, didn't it? Whereas now that it's here, I guess it's not. Now, we're going to get stuck into the new year next week, but first we're going to take you on a trip back through 2019.
It was the year that we celebrated our 1000th show with an interactive episode online where you could choose your own path through.
Imagine if everything that you watched was interactive, and if you could change your experiences depending on your mood, your desires, or even how much time you had.
If you go online, at the address that's on screen now, you will find a special version of this program that is interactive.
You get to choose which tech stories you hear about and in how much detail. As you watch, you'll be given options to dive deeper, or maybe to look at things from a different perspective, or maybe to skip on entirely.
I tried out NASA's next moon buggy.
By the way, we're on a slight incline right now.
And we visited Taiwan to see how green technology was helping to clean up the environment.
I think 2019 was a year when many of us regarded technology with a healthy degree of skepticism. Instead of just openly welcoming tech advances, we worried about data privacy, about the management of social media sites, and about online security. It was a year when the police around the world stepped up their use of facial recognition technology, and while yes, it could help track down criminals, as the police here in the UK discovered, Big Brother's not everyone's cup of tea.
Police cameras in an East London street, everyone gets scanned. If you refuse, here's what can happen.
Don't cover my face, I cover my face. Don't push me over when I'm walking down the street.
This man didn't want to be caught by the police cameras, so he covered his face. Police stopped him, they photographed him anyway, an argument followed.
How would you like if you walk down the street and someone grabs you? Hold yourself down, you're going to handcuffs. That's you. You would like it, would you? Would you mind your neck in?
What's your suspicion?
The fact that he's walked past clearly marked
I would do the
facial
same.
recognition thing and covered his face.
I would do the
Gives
same.
us grounds to stop
No,
him
it
and
doesn't.
verify.
The police said this was disorderly behaviour, so they gave him a fine.
The chap told me down the road, he said he got facial recognition. So I walked past like that. It's a cold day as well. As I've done that, the police officers asked me to come to him, so I've got me back up. I said to him, off, basically. I said, I don't want my face shown on anything. If I want to cover my face, I'll cover my face. It's not for them to tell me not to cover my face. I've got a now £90 fine. There you go, look at that. Thanks lads, £90. Well done.
He was caught up in the last of 10 trials carried out by the Metropolitan Police. The Met have had successes. There were 3 arrests from facial recognition on this test day alone, but the trials have proved controversial. Opponents claim they're taking place in a legal vacuum.
There is nothing in UK law that has the words facial recognition. There is no legal basis for the police to be using facial recognition. There are no legal limitations on how they can use it, no policy, no regulation. This is a free-for-all.
We're reviewing all capabilities in terms of live facial recognition, and absolutely the technology is there for body-worn or smaller devices to be fitted with facial recognition technology, as is CCTV. So absolutely we will look at that, but again, the right safeguards and the right reviews and learning has to be put around that.
And it turns out that warning was timely, because a few months later it emerged that facial recognition technology was being used to identify members of the public without their knowledge or consent at the London King's Cross Station estate, and it was with the help of London's Metropolitan Police. The owners of that area and the police have both since apologised, and the scheme was scrapped. But there's still no laws in the UK specifically relating to how facial recognition cameras should be used. Now, what's your top technology of 2019? Well, the one that we think really came of age this year, really started to take off, was electric cars.
For the first time, if you were thinking of getting a new car, you probably at least considered getting an all-electric one. So we did a whole show on them.
And to prove how quick they can go, we raced one against a Lambo. Now, both cars are in their fastest setups, and whatever happens today, we recommend you don't try this at home. We have several safety measures in operation. First of all, Johnny is a professional racing instructor here at Drift Limits. He does this day in, day out to scare the living daylights out of members of the public. In the passenger seat will be Mark, ensuring fair play and probably screaming his head off. And who can we get to give one of the finest sports cars a run for its money in a Tesla? It's only Top Gear's The Stig.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Stig wasn't available, so I'm standing in. Is that okay?
It's only Click's Lara Lewington. Drivers, start your engines.
Passenger here, my job is really simple. I just have to observe and report. Oh!
I did brake a bit early, but I so clearly won.
I'm no expert, but that was no contest. Wow, and I can tell you that Lara hasn't stopped bragging about that race since. Now, 2019 was the year when many more manufacturers joined the electric party. Better infrastructure, decent driving ranges, and guarantees on battery life all added to the mood music. And so Dan Simmons went to the Frankfurt Motor Show to catch the electric buzz.
There was really only one big question for the big execs of the huge German car companies at the world's biggest motor show. Why are they 10 years behind Tesla in offering us an all-electric car?
We are not each time the fastest or the earliest, but if we come very strong.
Tesla, a company that has been solely focused on electric vehicle production, you have to give them credit for blazing the trail.
Electric may only represent less than 3% of all new car sales last year, but VW have taken a close look at them and reckon it's the future.
Well, it's obviously not real.
These cool designs are actually for the future. Maybe. Each car manufacturer brings out some concept ideas. Interestingly, on the Volkswagen stand, they were all electric. The real car they were launching was the ID.3, a sort of electric Golf, with a 205 to 340 mile range depending on the exact model, with prices starting from a competitive €30,000. And a first from VW. They'll guarantee the battery for 8 years, meaning that if it loses more than a quarter of its full charge when new, they'll replace it. Audi hasn't done much in the way of electric for the past 10 years either, although now they have this. Sorry, that's another concept car. Now they have this. They've started with the popular style family SUV, but at more than £70,000, can many families afford it?
Yeah, I think there is this perception in the market that I have to pay more for the electric version of the same size vehicle than I would for gas or diesel. I think what you're going to see is that, at least at Audi, we're going into a lot lower segments in order to make electrification much more affordable.
There aren't many families that could afford €90,000 for a car.
Sure there are.
But surely some things will never lose the roar of a combustion engine.
Now, when Land Rover decide to make the Defender electric, well, then you know there's a trend going on. It also updates its own software over the air.
And then there are the sports cars. The Taycan is Porsche's first all-electric car, and it shifts. 0 to 62 in 3.2 seconds, with a range of up to 279 miles and a guarantee on that battery. OK, it's £115,000, but that's a 12k saving on its petrol performance equivalent, the 911 Actual Turbo. Good value, maybe, but I have a feeling that it's that VW that'll turn out to be super competitive as an entry model for most.
That was Dan playing with the everyday and the not so everyday EVs. Now, from electric to self-driving cars. For the past couple of years or so, they've been tested on the roads of Arizona, USA. But in 2018, things went badly wrong when one of them failed to stop and killed a pedestrian. Last year, I visited the state to find out how the locals felt about living with autonomous vehicles. In Chandler, there is the same mix of excitement and concern about self-driving cars that we've seen everywhere. The difference is, for these people, it's happening right in front of them, right now.
It's big money saying, hey, listen, this is cool, this is new. I'm sure you would like this because you see it, and it's fascinating. But at the same time, you're costing people their jobs and people who are taking care of their families.
This is something you'd see on TV when you were a kid in like old 90s movies of self-driving cars, and the fact that it's actually here and at our fingertips, I think it's incredible.
Lyft drivers are going to lose their jobs, cab drivers will lose their jobs, and not only will they lose their jobs, I promise you they're going to try to figure out a way to make machines create these cars, so they're not even going to let humans create the cars.
Like, do I trust a machine with my children's lives? I don't know if I could do that or not.
And last year, the fears of the community became a reality. But the number of accidents involving self-driving cars is very low for the millions of miles of testing that have taken place. Testing continues both in the States and elsewhere around the world, but most experts agree we are still quite a few years away from seeing the widespread use of cars that can safely drive themselves. Not least because the legal framework to allow it is still being thrashed out. Now, another big development in tech this year has been the long-awaited arrival of 5G. Has it changed your life yet? Well, amongst other things, 5G promises to connect everything all of the time. And when I say everything, I mean everything.
In this idyllic patch of British countryside, the birds are cheerfully singing and the cows are peacefully grazing. But look closer and you will see there is something very different about these cows, linking them to a unique experiment.
This dairy farm in Somerset is one of the first test beds for 5G in the UK. The cows are wearing sensors and all of the data is being sent to the cloud and then back to the farmer who can make decisions based on this data.
Almost every task on this farm can be automated. These cows are queuing up patiently to be robotically milked. This system allows the cow to choose how many times a day and at what time it wants to be milked. The robot picks up on how much milk is coming from each of the cow's udders and can control the sensitivity of the milking as well. The cows here come and go as they please, with little human interaction in their movements.
So one of these cows is just taking itself for a massage.
5G, it could change the life of cows forever. And from one minor miracle to the promise of another now, space travel for ordinary folk like us. Last autumn, Mark Chislak was invited to New Mexico in the States to see the world's first commercial spaceport.
Fire, fire!
It's a little after 7 a.m. and I'm heading into the desert in New Mexico, about 20 miles past a place called Truth or consequences.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The only way that you can get to space today is with the Russians, and they're currently charging NASA around $80 million a ticket.
Spaceport America is the new home of Virgin Galactic, the company founded by billionaire Sir Richard Branson to take paying customers on 90-minute flights to the edge of space. The spaceport's exterior is the product of British architects Foster & Partners. Eventually, 5 spaceships and 2 carrier aircraft will reside in the hangar. Passengers will also receive 3 days training here before blasting off into the upper atmosphere.
And spaceship from base, you are go for L-10 on top.
It's also home to Mission Control, where all flight operations are monitored from. And this is the very first time that a TV crew has been allowed to film inside this room.
The winds are holding 160 at 10 knots, altimeter setting 3013.
When do you think Virgin Galactic is going to be putting paying customers up into space? When is the date? When's that going to happen?
Right now, according to our current projections, we think that we can start commercial operations next year.
The world, of course, has bigger problems to solve than just trying to get us off of it. And in 2019, green issues and sustainability came to the fore. Extinction Rebellion, Greta Thunberg, and the UK's commitment to become carbon neutral by 2050. Last year, I met up with the first scientist to suggest that as well as stopping emitting greenhouse gases, we might be able to use technology to pull them back out of the atmosphere.
It's called the artificial tree.
The air passes through these filters, which are made of a very special material, because the CO2 actually clings to this material as the air passes over it. Now, once these filters are saturated with carbon dioxide, this whole thing moves down into a container of water, where this particular material releases the CO2 into the sealed container. And then, congratulations, you've captured yourself some CO2 from the air.
This is the brainchild of Klaus Lackner here at the aptly named Negative Emissions Center at Arizona State University.
They realized very early on this is a waste management problem. We are dumping CO2 into the atmosphere and it just stays there. So it was very clear to me in the early 90s that sometime in the 21st century we will have to stop emitting.
Klaus was the first scientist back in 1999 to publish a scientific paper suggesting carbon capture from the air was a feasible way of combating climate change. And once you've captured the carbon, the next problem is what are you going to do with it?
We can use the CO2 to create drinks, be it beers or soda or whatever. We can also use CO2 for fuel production. There are also currently studies ongoing to see if we can somehow use the CO2 as a building material.
Yet, in the future, we may be able to lock CO2 into concrete.
Climate change is getting ever more urgent, and so the work to combat it is getting ever more important. Isn't that right, Alexa?
Yes, it is, Spencer.
You've been quite popular over the last year as well, haven't you?
I have, Spencer.
Responding to everything that we ask you to do.
I'm always listening to you, Spencer.
Not so good at reacting to other types of sounds, though, are you? Like alarms or dogs barking.
I'm sure maybe
Yeah, thanks, Alexa. Paul Carter, earlier in the year, went to see a British company which is teaching voice assistants some new tricks.
So these waveforms here that I can see on this screen are the representations of what's coming off the microphones in there. And in the middle is the actual dog bark threshold that the system is listening for. And when it identifies them, you should hear it activate.
Hey Monty, I can hear you barking. As it is late and you're home alone, I'm going to alert your owner. Turn on the lights and play some jazz because I know how much you like it.
Nice.
But dogs,
as good as they are only the beginning. The space here can be used to record an enormous range of sounds, ranging from the dramatic to the more low-key.
So there's no shortcuts to this sort of thing. It is literally, you have to have the data sets. So we've had to go out and collect all that data. So we have the world's largest collection of audio data, 15 million audio event files that help us train that technology itself.
And of course, we couldn't leave without taking a sledgehammer to some windows.
Smashing. Now, Lara's been extremely busy over the last year, and when we asked her to pick her highlights from 2019, she chose this next film. See, like many of us, she's been worried about how the big tech companies are using our data to target us with ads, decide what we see on social media, or even possibly influence how we might vote. And so in the summer, she joined two of Click's production crew in a unique theatre experience designed to make us all think twice.
We've been instructed to go to a pub near London Bridge where we're delivered a message.
We need you, Sarah needs you. Keep your phone to hand and await further instructions. Josh.
Are you Sarah?
Yes.
Do you know Josh?
Yes.
We're told about a secret mind-shifting experience where we give up our memories.
Memory deletion, basically. And you don't remember because it's a procedure you all had done.
I went behind the scenes with one of the creators to learn what is actually going on here.
We get sent their name and email from our ticketing provider. We can run an enrichment, a data enrichment on that person. It will start to pull out things like related people, my personal email address, my GitHub, just anything that could be relevant, even if we don't exactly know how it's relevant. From that point, we can then start curating the imagery that makes sense within the show.
I'm looking for the dossier they collated on you.
As the show unfolds, tension builds until the big reveal. The dossier on you, concocted from your online life. I have no idea what we're going to find in these files.
What is this? Wow! Wow, my old boss from years ago.
I'm really careful about not putting anything personal online, yet still what they found surprised me.
My first thought was that if you put my name into a search engine, you would find far more relevant and meaningful information than the pictures that are here.
That's true, but at the same time, you would also kind of know where that came from and it would lose a little bit of mystery.
Take the memory stick out, delete the information in the cells. Memory stick out, log out, information in the cells. Get rid of it all. Okay, everybody out. Now, you need to go.
Okay.
Go. Give me the memory sticks! Because if I don't have them, then he will.
It's been a pretty intense experience, but the thing that it's really left me with is I want to hold on to my data. The show has really stuck with me, yet a few weeks on, has my behaviour changed? Of course not. I really want my online life to be easy, so I'm still handing over my data left, right and centre. But maybe I'm just yet to be struck by what that means in the real world.
That was Lara. I wonder whether she's contemplating less data sharing for her New Year's resolution. Well, those were the big moments and the big themes from 2019. Who knows what 2020 will bring? Well, to get an idea, next week we're going to be at the world's biggest tech expo, CES in Las Vegas, and we hope you can be there with us. Hold on tight, this ride does not stop. We'll see you there.